Every morning as dawn breaks over Tokyo, millions of young people squeeze into packed subway cars. The air is thick with anticipation and fatigue. Faces glow in the pale light of smartphones, each person lost in their own world, yet united by the same daily ritual. For some, this commute is a symbol of hope, a step toward independence. For others, it's a reminder of dreams deferred. But unlike their parents, who once boarded these trains with the promise of stable, lifelong employment, many of today's youth are heading to part-time jobs and temporary contracts. These are not stepping stones, but often the only options available. The dream of a secure job with benefits, a clear career path, and a future to build upon has faded for much of Japan's youth. Instead, uncertainty has become the new normal. Many find themselves trapped in a cycle of temporary work, moving from one short-term contract to another, with little hope for advancement or stability. The pressure is relentless, and the future feels out of reach. This isn't a personal failure, it's a systemic shift, a crack in the foundation of Japan's post-war economic miracle. The promise that hard work would lead to security has been broken by decades of economic stagnation and shifting labor policies. The iconic salaryman, once the backbone of Japan's workforce, is being replaced by the freeter. Young people drifting between insecure jobs, feeling excluded from a system that once promised stability. The consequences ripple out: fewer marriages, delayed independence, and a growing number of young adults living with their parents well into their 30s. Behind the quiet faces on the train are stories of anxiety and resilience, a generation quietly struggling under the weight of uncertainty, yet still hoping for something better. As these commuters step off the train, they carry not just their bags, but the burden of a national crisis demanding urgent change. Each face in the crowd is a story of hope, struggle, and the search for a future that feels increasingly out of reach. For decades, Japan's post-war economic miracle was built on a unique social contract: lifetime employment. In the 1960s and 70s, a young man, often straight out of university, would join a company and expect to stay until retirement. This system, known as Shushin Koyo, became a symbol of stability and national pride. In exchange for unwavering loyalty, companies offered security, steady raises, generous bonuses, subsidized housing, and a deep sense of belonging. Many recall how their fathers' companies felt like extended families, where coworkers celebrated weddings, mourned losses, and supported each other through life's milestones. This system powered Japan's post-war boom, letting families plan for the future with confidence. For many, the promise of a stable job meant home ownership, education for their children, and a clear path to middle-class life. But the 1990s bubble burst shattered this world. The collapse of asset prices and a banking crisis sent shockwaves through society. One former salaryman recalls, "Overnight, my company stopped promising us anything. Friends who thought they'd retire together were suddenly let go." Companies, drowning in debt, could no longer afford jobs for life. The unspoken agreement between employer and employee began to unravel, leaving many feeling betrayed. The lost decades forced corporations to cut costs, ending the era of guaranteed employment. The impact rippled through society, eroding trust in institutions and shaking the foundation of the middle class. Instead of hiring for life, firms turned to flexible, cheaper labor: part-timers, contract workers, and dispatch employees. For new graduates, the job market became a maze of uncertainty, with fewer opportunities for stable careers. The old path to stability vanished, leaving the next generation to navigate a landscape their parents wouldn't recognize. Many young people now juggle multiple part-time jobs, unable to plan for the future or start families of their own. The promise of security was replaced by uncertainty and a new, more precarious reality. The lost promise of lifetime employment still echoes in the memories of older generations, while the young are left searching for new ways to build their lives. After the economic crash, Japanese companies rapidly expanded non-regular employment: part-timers, contract workers, and temps. By 2020, over 38% of the workforce held non-regular jobs, compared to just 20% in the early 1990s. What was once a stopgap for students or housewives became the new norm for young job seekers. Nearly half of all workers aged 15 to 24 are now in non-regular positions. In the early 1990s, non-regulars were a fifth of the workforce. Now they're nearly two-fifths. This shift has reshaped the entire job market. For many young people, the traditional path to a full-time job is closed, replaced by a cycle of temporary work. Yuki, a 27-year-old, has cycled through 5 part-time jobs in 3 years, never receiving health benefits or paid leave. The freeter generation emerged, not by choice but by necessity, trapped in a system that's hard to escape. Many live with their parents or in cramped apartments, unable to save or plan for the future. Regular employees enjoy security, benefits, and career paths. Non-regulars get lower pay, no bonuses, and little hope for advancement. On average, freeters earn less than half the annual income of regular employees. This two-tiered system is now deeply entrenched, with non-regular work the default entry point for youth. Employers prefer flexible labor, leaving young people with few alternatives. The freeter is no longer an exception, but a mainstream reality. Over 1.5 million young Japanese are classified as freeters today. For millions, the safety net is gone, leaving them unable to build the stable lives their parents once took for granted. Rising anxiety, delayed marriage, and declining birth rates are just some of the societal impacts of this new normal. For companies, hiring non-regular workers is a cost-saving strategy. Lower wages, no bonuses, and fewer benefits. It also offers flexibility. Temporary contracts can be ended easily, letting firms adjust their workforce as needed. Japan's strict labor laws protect regular employees, making layoffs difficult, so companies rely on non-regulars as a buffer. The legal system encourages this divide, incentivizing firms to minimize permanent hires. Profits rise in good times, but in downturns, temporary workers are let go, left to fend for themselves with little support. This approach creates institutionalized inequality, with young workers bearing the brunt. Non-regulars are seen as disposable, rarely offered training or career development. "I feel invisible," says one young worker. "No one invests in us, so we can't invest in ourselves." The result, stunted growth for individuals, rising anxiety, and a sense of hopelessness for many. Experts warn that this system risks eroding the nation's future workforce, as young people lose faith in stable careers and long-term prospects. The pursuit of flexibility has come at a steep human cost: fractured dreams, mental health struggles, and a generation left behind. Many young Japanese hope part-time work will lead to a full-time job, but the path is narrow and unforgiving. Take Yuki, for example, a university graduate who spent 2 years juggling multiple part-time jobs, only to find her applications for full-time positions repeatedly rejected. The main route to regular employment is through synchronized hiring of new graduates. Miss that window, and opportunities vanish. For many, like Daichi, who missed the hiring season due to illness, the door to stable work seemed permanently closed. Those who start as non-regulars are often overlooked, their experience dismissed by employers. Many report feeling invisible, their hard work in part-time roles rarely recognized as valuable. Part-time roles rarely offer skill development, trapping workers in a cycle of jobs with no advancement. Some, like Haruka, try to break out by taking night classes or attending job seminars, but progress is slow and uncertain. The result is a vicious loop. You need experience to get a regular job, but can't get experience without one. Yet there are success stories. After years of setbacks, some manage to land full-time roles at smaller firms willing to take a chance on non-traditional candidates. Even government efforts to convert non-regulars to full-time staff have had limited impact. Programs offer hope, but competition is fierce, and only a fraction succeed. For millions, the door to stability remains closed, leaving them stuck in perpetual insecurity. But for a determined few, persistence and support can eventually open a path to a brighter future. Life as a non-regular worker means low pay, no bonuses, and constant financial stress. Each morning starts with worry. Will today's shifts be enough to cover rent and food? Saving money or planning for the future is nearly impossible, as unpredictable hours and sudden schedule changes make budgeting a daily challenge. Speaker 1.2. I want to move out, but I can't save enough. My parents worry, but there's nothing I can do. forcing many young people to live with their parents well into adulthood. Speaker 2 at 1.0x. Sometimes I feel ashamed. People think I'm lazy, but I'm working as much as I can. This dependency is often stigmatized, but it's a rational response to economic reality. Without stable income, milestones like marriage, children, or home ownership are out of reach. Non-regulars face weaker protections. Losing a job or taking maternity leave can mean starting over from scratch. Speaker Core 3 at 1.0x. I'm always tired. I worry about getting sick because if I miss work, I don't get paid. The daily grind brings anxiety, depression, and a sense of being disposable. There's little sense of community or recognition. Many eat lunch alone, feeling invisible even among coworkers. Life becomes a series of shifts, with the future always uncertain. Each day blurs into the next, with little hope for change. This is the quiet struggle of millions caught in the part-time trap, each with their own story, each hoping for something better. The struggles of Japan's non-regular workers have escalated into a national crisis, with experts warning that the consequences could reverberate for generations. Demographers project that job insecurity will continue to fuel Japan's demographic decline, as fewer young people feel confident enough to marry or start families. This trend is accelerating the country's aging and shrinking population. With nearly 40% of workers in low-paying, unstable jobs, economists warn of a shrinking tax base and mounting pressure on public services. The social safety net is under threat. There simply aren't enough stable contributors to support a rapidly growing number of retirees. Some experts predict that without major reforms, pension and healthcare systems could face severe shortfalls. The government has responded with reforms like equal pay laws and incentives for companies to convert temporary workers to full-time positions. Policy analysts note that subsidies and new regulations are steps in the right direction, but implementation has been slow and uneven. Some forward-thinking companies are experimenting with clearer career pathways and better benefits, but these remain exceptions rather than the rule. Sociologists argue that the two-tiered employment system is deeply entrenched, perpetuating inequality and limiting social mobility for young people. Looking ahead, labor shortages may force companies to offer better terms, but experts caution that real systemic reform is far from guaranteed. The choices made now will determine whether Japan can reverse its decline or face deeper challenges. The future of an entire generation and the nation itself hangs in the balance. Will Japan find the resolve to rebuild a path to stability and opportunity for its youth? The answer will shape not only Japan's destiny, but also serve as a lesson for societies around the world grappling with similar challenges.